NASA's next-generation Megarocket set for debut check release to Moon 27, Cape Canaveral, Florida. NASA's massive next-generation rocket ship becomes set for its long-awaited debut launch on Monday on an uncrewed, 6-week test flight around the Moon and returned, marking the first undertaking of the Gap Business Enterprises Artemis application, successor to Apollo. The 32-story tall, two-stage Space Launch System (SLS) rocket and its Orion team capsule were due for blastoff from the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida, for the duration of a 2-hour release window establishing at 8:33 a.m. EDT, 12:33 GMT. The maiden voyage of the SLS Orion, a project dubbed Artemis I, is supposed to place the 5.75 million-pound vehicle through its paces in a rigorous demonstration flight, pushing its design limits, before NASA deems it dependable enough to carry astronauts. Billed because the most powerful, complicated rocket within the world, the SLS represents the biggest new vertical launch system the U.S. Space Corporation has built since the Saturn V flown all through the Apollo moon application of the 60s and 70s. The spacecraft became slowly trundled to ancient Launch Pad 39B in advance this month following weeks of final preparations and floor checks. Last week, NASA officials concluded their flight readiness evaluate maintaining all structures had been cross for release. One trouble stated through NASA officials' ultimate week as a capacity showstopper for Monday's launch could be any signal throughout rocket fueling that a newly repaired hydrogen line becoming had didn't keep. If the countdown clock is halted for any motive, NASA has set September 2 and Sept. 5 as backup launch dates. Barring last-minute technical problems or damaging weather, Monday's countdown need to end with the rocket's 4 predominant R-25 engines and its twin solid rocket boosters igniting to supply 8 million pounds of thrust, approximately 15% more thrust than produced by the Saturn V, sending the spacecraft streaking skyward. About 90 minutes after release, the rocket's top degree will thrust Orion out of Earth orbit on direction for a 42-day flight that brings it to within 60 miles of the lunar floor before cruising 40,000 miles (64,374 kilometers) past the Moon and again to Earth. The tablet is predicted to splash down in the Pacific on October 10. Although no human beings will be aboard, Orion can be wearing a simulated group of 1 male and 2 lady mannequins geared up with sensors to measure radiation levels and other stresses that real-life astronauts might enjoy. A top goal for the challenge is to check the durability of Orion's warmness guard in the course of re-entry because it hits Earth's atmosphere at 24,500 miles (39,429 kilometers) in keeping with our, or 32 times the speed of sound, on its return from lunar orbit, tons faster than greater not unusual re-entries of astronaut drugs returning from low Earth orbit. That's our highest priority that we ought to accomplish, lead flight director Rick Lebrode said of demonstrating the warmth protect's capacity to face up to re-entry friction, anticipated to elevate temperatures out of doors the pill to nearly 5,000 stages Fahrenheit, 2,760 Celsius. That's what's going to keep the pill together and keep the astronauts back to the Moon. NASA's Artemis application, named for the goddess who turned into Apollo's twin sister in historic Greek mythology, aims to return astronauts to the Moon's floor as early as 2025, and to set up a long-term lunar colony as a stepping stone to even greater bold destiny voyages sending humans to Mars. More than a decade in development with years of delays and billions of greenbacks in price range overruns, the SLS Orion spacecraft has thus far fee NASA leased $37 billion, including layout, production, testing and floor facilities. NASA Chief Bill Nelson has defended the Artemis software as a boon to space exploration and an financial engine, noting that in 2019 by myself, for instance, it generated $14 billion in commerce and supported 70,000 U.S.